Nintendo makes some really amazing content, but I can't praise them on the legal side of things. They are seemingly always in lawsuits, whether it's over their Joy-Con issues or going after ROM and emulator sites, and now people are starting to call them copyright villains over how many people they're willing to go after. And I wanted to kind of do an in-depth look at all of the things that have happened over the past couple of years in terms of these issues. But before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So I wanted to focus on this DualShockers article. Nintendo's copyright crackdowns have turned it into a villain. These days, Nintendo seems to be omnipresent in the media, from the record-breaking Super Mario Bros. Movie to the upcoming Tears of the Kingdom game, and more relevant to our purposes here, the trial, incarceration, and early release of a man named Bowser. Now, I do constantly talk about Nintendo. Lately, I have been praising them over the Super Mario Brothers movie. It is a pretty good film that has done absolutely fantastic at the box office, and I'm glad to see a video game film win in the theaters. And I am very excited for Tears of the Kingdom. I'm purchasing it day one. I'm going to be live streaming it. I'm looking forward to it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of problems surrounding this company. In case you haven't heard, Gary Bowser was arrested back in 2020 for working as a salesman for Team Executor, a group responsible for selling tools that allowed gamers to hack into their respective consoles, such as the Nintendo Switch, which would in turn let them download pirated software for free. Like anyone coming up in the age of early consoles, for me, life used to be about Nintendo's innocent IP. Their pure noble goals matched my youthful outlook on the world, and there was nothing that could shake my love. The tough corporate reality behind Nintendo has never matched the beautifully fluffy imagery being beamed from their consoles, with the company always being fiercely protective of its IP. Which, of course, I completely understand, but that still doesn't mean that they're doing it properly. Just skimming through the decades, Nintendo's litigious nature kept growing and growing. Starting with the Game Genie trial, the game giant's ire expanded, along with a zero-tolerance attitude towards anyone who would dare try to cheat them out of a yen. Soon, we were hearing stories left and right about victims of Nintendo's crackdown, predominantly against pirates who showed a willful disregard towards their rights. Just looking at a situation from February of this year, 200 pages from a Tears of the Kingdom art book were leaked on Discord from an unknown source, and according to Torrent Freak, Nintendo got straight to work slapping Discord with a DMCA subpoena to disclose the name, address, telephone number, and email address of the leaker, whom we only know as user Julian2743. The consequences of that leak are yet to be seen, but Discord had no choice but to comply with the ironclad subpoena and reveal their contact information. So as you can see, there are a lot of things on this list. There's also a YouTuber who logged hundreds of hours of game time on his channel, who specializes in self-modded versions of Breath of the Wild, and of course, Nintendo decided this year to block every single one of his speedruns. But now we're able to get into the situation that most people are talking about at this point, the one with Bowser. It says it has become high profile not because of the piracy aspect, but mostly because of the severity of the sentence. While piracy is not something to condone, his guilty verdict called to mind the old adage, let the punishment fit the crime, and as evidence showed, his sentence of 40 months in prison, as well as a total of a $14.5 million in penalties, was in far excess of the offense and the $320,000 he made in revenue while with Team Executor. Piracy is obviously illegal, but Nintendo has never been helpful in video game preservation. Look at what's happened recently with the Wii U and 3D shops that have been shut down. If you have one of those and you bought games, you can download them and update them, but because the shops themselves are gone, no one can buy anything new, so these devices are essentially useless unless you can get physical media, which in many cases is absurdly expensive. The Completionist has spent over $22,000 to buy every game on these so he'd be able to donate them to a museum, because clearly Nintendo doesn't care about this subject. They believe the act of preservation is violating their IPs when they're not even offering an easy way to continue to play a lot of their classics or use their devices, and if they're going to use the argument that Switch Online's retro library is their answer, they're out of their minds because their selection is terrible. We also got a statement from Nintendo recently saying even after March 27th, 2023 and for the foreseeable future, it will still be possible to re-download games in DLC, receive software updates, and enjoy online play on the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS family of systems. But the problem with this statement is, what does foreseeable future mean? I don't trust Nintendo to keep maintenance on those libraries up indefinitely, and that means the entire erasure of a catalog for systems like the 3DS that sold over 75 million units. The problem of digital games disappearing isn't exclusive to them. We've seen games go offline or get taken down that people have paid for, but this has to be the first time an entire library could become inaccessible without emulators. Nintendo has aggressively gone after modding communities, and these communities give games a second and a third life. They're creating a community around certain games, which is awesome. Look at something like Skyrim. We wouldn't be talking about it today without these people, and the fact that Nintendo doesn't see that or ignores that is another example of how anti-consumer they are. But when people do figure out how to mod their games, just like their other responses are disproportionate. I understand to mod a Switch game, you've got to dump it into an emulator for the mod, but I think that Nintendo could do more to create legal avenues to do this, and they refuse to, just like they refuse to offer better support on the legacy catalogs of their games. As it says, Bowser since has been released early on good behavior, but is still obligated to fulfill his end of the penalty charges, which he said in an interview means that 15 to 30% of the income he earns for the rest of his life will be going to Nintendo, like they need the extra revenue. And yes, he did break the law, but making him pay $14 million and get 3 years in jail when he made $320,000 is absolutely insane. I don't think anyone should be sent to jail for modifying someone's hardware unless by modifying it you stole private people's information, which he didn't do. And secondly, the amount of money he was fined for was far in excess of what he made off of Nintendo. No one should be made an example of, just made to pay for what they did with a proportionate sentence, and this certainly wasn't it. I've tried to give Nintendo credit because they have attempted to fight against censoring games, sometimes successfully and other times they've dropped the ball with something like Fire Emblem, but this is a major step back and nothing they've done can make up for the level of anti-consumerism and anti-player these moves are. I don't want to advocate for piracy, but Nintendo, you've given us no choice. In the interest of game preservation, the community will do what it has to do to make it happen, whether you like it or not, and someone needs to stand up and hopefully will to your overzealous and disproportionate legal tactics. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.